What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Timeless Movie Podcast, episode number 23. My name is Victor Vasquez. Appreciate everybody coming back and listening to another episode. On this week's episode, we're going to be covering The Northman, directed by Robert Eggers, a new film kind of taking place in the Viking kind of era. We'll get into that a little bit later, but again, on this podcast, we're going to be discussing, is this new film timeless after one viewing? Is it ridiculous? Yes, it is, but I'm still open to trying it and seeing if I can find those new timeless movies that are coming out this year as well. For anybody that hasn't listened to last week's episode, make sure to go ahead and check out episode 22, where we talk about Everything Everywhere All at Once. Such a great movie, but go ahead and hear that specific episode to get my thoughts on that film. All right, everybody, let's go ahead and jump in to the first segment where I talk about why I wanted to watch The Northman. Okay. Top reason of why I wanted to watch this film was the first trailer I saw in theaters. The setting of the movie, like I mentioned a little bit before, was in the era of the Vikings. It showed a boy who was traumatized by the event of seeing his father die, and now he has to avenge him. Then you get your first shot of Alexander Skarsgard, completely jacked. He's ripped. He's got like an 8-pack, and he's looking like a real Viking, hacking away at some people that are just standing in his way of his mission. I was hooked. It looks so freaking awesome. The visuals from the trailer look awesome as well. It just seemed like it was going to be a very dark and serious film. I loved it. Because of its different nature of it as well from other films that I've been watching recently, it just seems completely different from, again, any kind of Marvel movie that they're coming out with, any other specific film like even Everything Everywhere All at Once or Uncharted or Death on the Nile. Those kind of films. Again, all those kind of elements are taking place almost in, now in current modern times. But again, when a film comes out that's very different, that's again part of it, something maybe historical or pieces from history, it just makes things a little bit more interesting as well. I got a very similar feeling when I watched The Last Duel. That was a couple months ago as well. But in that specific movie, it was kind of the same approach. The setting was very different. It was during the medieval times, and we don't get a lot of those type of movies nowadays. So again, it's just a nice change of pace is always good when you're watching a movie, and just made it even more interesting to kind of dive into the story of a fictional Viking as well. The cast was also something I was very interested in. Aside from Alexander Skarsgard, you also had the names of Anya TaylorJoy, Willem Dafoe, Ethan Hawke, and Nicole Kidman, who again were all part of this grand story that they were going to tell during the Viking era in this specific movie as well. It all intrigued me, and I just thought, hey, this I think would be awesome to see how these characters would interact throughout the movie as well. All right, those are my thoughts on why I wanted to watch the movie. Let's go ahead and jump into my detailed thoughts after watching it. All right, I was able to check out this film. I've only seen it once, and I was able to kind of check it out on opening night at Dolby Cinema Theaters, which was on April 21st. My opinion on this film is that it was really good. Not the best movie of the year so far for me, but I thoroughly enjoyed my time at the theater. The sound and the score of this film was one of the highlights for me. I can still hear the bang of the drums slowly as we follow the main character of the film, Amleth, played by Alexander Skarsgard. Another pro for me were the visuals. I investigated a bit further on this film, and it was primarily filmed in Northern Ireland in order to capture the feeling of Iceland. Again, the setting of the movie is actually, based in Iceland, but, where it was actually filmed was Northern Ireland. And again, everything just felt so real and grand when watching the movie in the theaters. That partly could have been due to the Dolby Cinema, but I truly believe that it was because of the film being able to shoot directly on site with little CGI being used. I think that's really what made me enjoy this film so much more, was that nothing looked fake or over the top ridiculous. Rather, it just kind of dropped you into the year of 895 AD, and it just made you feel like, yeah, I feel like this is exactly how people would act during those years as well. So great job to the director, Robert Eggers, and the rest of the crew for the design and the cinematography. As for the story, I thought it was really cool and straightforward. It was actually based on a Scandinavian figure that was, I guess, the inspiration for Hamlet that was created by Shakespeare. The main protagonist in this film, Amleth, we first see him as a young prince, waiting to be with his father, who just came back from a battle. He admired his father and he wanted to be just like him. So, Amleth's father King Arvindal, War Raven, his full name, played by Ethan Hawke, wanted to prepare his son for the real world so that he can be ready for kingship. They both went through a very psychedelic ritual at the beginning of the film, which, again, it was almost like a specific ritual to act like a wolf or a dog, and they were just really trying to release their inner beasts. And in this ritual, his father proclaims that his son must avenge him if he were ever to be murdered. That line kept repeating over and over and over again. Until the next morning, as both King Arvindal and Amleth both walk away from the ritual shack, King Arvindal is struck down by multiple arrows and commands his son to run away. As Amleth runs away, he turns around and he sees that his own uncle was the man that commanded soldiers to take down his father. From then on, his whole life is based on three things: avenge his father, save his mother, and kill Fang, played by Claes Bang, and is the uncle of Amleth. You then proceed to follow Amleth as a much older and brooding man wanting to get revenge on the man that ruined his life. He becomes a Viking and a killing machine, really, as he will take down anyone that gets in his way of his mission. And I think this is where the theme of the film really kicks in. Can you escape your fate? Or no matter what you do in your life, you must fulfill your destiny. That is what Amleth faces throughout the film. His mission was always set to kill his uncle after he went through that ritual with his father. But then he encounters roadblocks, like his uncle having his own family with his mother. His mother, instead of mourning the loss of his father years ago, is happy with her new life. And the fact that Amleth must also deal with his own love as he encounters Olga, played by Anya TaylorJoy. All these different things provide Amleth with a choice he must make. Go through with the fate that he has known since he was a kid, or change paths altogether and live a different life as well. I'm not going to spoil the ending, as I want you all to experience it on your own, but it all played out really well. Overall, I enjoyed the film. The action in the movie was really well done, and it just feels very epic as you go through the film, following Amleth and his journey through his fate, right? Again, trying to understand, can he escape his fate? Is it already a part of his plan in his life to go through and kill his uncle? Or is he able to change paths altogether? Something that you guys will have to experience when you go watch The Northman. Alright, now that I went through my detailed thoughts, I wanted to jump into what actor or actress had my favorite performance. After watching this specific movie, there were two actors that stood out to me. One of them was Alexander Skarsgard, and the other was Anya Taylor-Joy. Both characters commanded a lot of attention in their performance, and it just made you just kind of focus in on them a lot more. Anya Taylor-Joy played Olga, who was a slave that encounters Amleth on his quest for revenge. She seemed to have some type of psychic powers, as she was able to understand certain situations or decisions and make the right choice in those moments, almost like knowing or foreshadowing what was going to come as well. She also was very confident and knew exactly what needed to be done in order to come out on top in a situation. Again, kudos to Anya Taylor-Joy. I saw her in Last Night in Soho, and she got my favorite actress, really, in that specific movie. And again, she just commands a lot of attention, and I love it. She's just so good as well. However, I think Alexander Skarsgård as Amleth stole the show for me. He really embodied the feeling and the look of a Viking. There was a particular scene where he is trying to tap into his primal spirit, in which he starts howling and screaming like a wolf, to the point that he is screaming so much that veins start appearing on his head, and then you can see nothing but the white of his eyes as his eyes roll back. Such a crazy scene. It looked like he was about to black out, but he didn't. But again, Skarsgård didn't only have to have those tough brooding moments, he also had to have very emotional moments. So you got to see a little bit of the range as well. One's like reconnecting with his mother after many, many years and finding out that she's happy with her new life. And even going, face to face with the man that murdered his dad, his uncle. And so knowing how that would make him feel, how would he be able to do that as well? It's just so many different types of elements and emotions that he had to go through, but he was able to pull it all off. So great job by Alexander Skarsgård in all of these different types of scenes. It just made the story much more believable. And again, just made you kind of understand, okay, after seeing that, I think he has to go through his fate or at least complete it. Or, what happens if he doesn't? Can he live with himself if he doesn't complete that specific destiny as well? The entire cast did really well, but again, I gotta shoot that spotlight to Anya TaylorJoy and Alexander Skarsgard for my favorite performances in the film. All right, now I'm going to jump into my favorite scene of The Northman. Spoiler warning again for anybody that has not seen the movie. Just go ahead and skip a couple minutes here as I delve into one of my favorite scenes. This one doesn't have that much of a, spoiler from a plot perspective of like what the ending is, but it does kind of give off on a specific area of the film as well. So if you do not want to get spoiled, please make sure to skip ahead as well. All right, guys, I swear I'm not doing this on purpose, but my favorite scene, again, comes back to an action sequence. It actually involves Amleth going down a deep cave in search for the undead. So, in the movie, they explain that the undead was an ancient sword that was forged out of unique metals and is basically indestructible. However, the sword is unique in that it has a mind of its own, meaning that you can't just use it to strike at any time. It actually needs a purpose to strike someone. Well, in the scene where Amleth climbs down into the cave and he sees the undead sword, it's currently being held by a mummified Viking. He tries to pull it away from the mummy, but as he does that, the dead Viking rises and it begins to try to attack Amleth. Just as the mummy looks like he's about to strike down and kill Amleth, Amleth finds a way to knock down the monster and pull it into the moonlight. For some reason, the mummy begins to freeze up, and this gives Amleth the opportunity to knock down the mummy, obtain the undead sword, and chop the head off of the dead Viking. It was super cool visually in that specific moment, even though we realize at the end that I think it was all really in his head, because after he chops off the head, he ends up looking to his right, and then he sees that the undead mummy is right back in that same seat that it was with the sword, and then he just ends up pulling it off of his hands. So I think it was just trying to represent that he now has earned the undead weapon. He obviously can't just steal it, right? He's got to actually earn it. And how does he earn it? By killing whoever owned it last. And I guess it was that dead Viking. It was so freaking awesome. It just looked so, cool that it was kind of like a very, very, dark cave. And the only light that was coming in, the only source, was the moonlight. And so I thought it was awesome. And I'm always kind of intrigued by those type of artifacts and weapons like the undead. Super cool. You see it on later, but I'm not going to spoil those for you guys as well. All right, everybody. Now I'm going to jump into would I recommend watching this movie in theaters or in streaming? All right. So again, I got a chance to go check this film out in Dolby Cinema, and I feel like I made the right choice. I would highly recommend that if you wanted to go get the full immersive experience, you should definitely check this out in a movie theater. It doesn't have to be Dolby Cinema, but at least in the theater, you can at least get through the specific sounds and the score, the thunderous boom of the drums that played throughout the movie. It would also be great to see the awesome set designs and the set pieces on the big screen. That way, again, you can capture every little detail that the director wanted to portray in Iceland and just, the entire kind of Viking era as well. And of course, watching all those action and death scenes is totally worth it as well. This film was definitely made for the big screen, but that's just my opinion. Again, I always enjoy going to a movie theater to watch something just to kind of have that surround sound and have a bigger screen to see more action and different types of elements of the films. But guys, let me know what you think. If you've gotten a chance to go see it in the movie theaters, would you also recommend it to go see it? Or is it more of a just wait until it comes out on a streaming service? Let me know, guys, down below what your thoughts are on that. All right, everybody. Now we have come to the last segment, which is, does this movie have the potential to be timeless? I'm going to be honest, this was super tough for me. The film definitely has potential to be timeless. However, as of today, I do not consider it a timeless movie. The potential as to why I think it could eventually be a timeless movie for me are the things that I mentioned a little bit earlier. The visuals are some things that I really enjoyed. The score and the action sequences are things that just elevated this movie to another level. All these elements are things of what would make me want to come back and watch the movie. Some of the reasons why I don't think it's timeless as of today is probably just due to the story. Now, I'm not saying that the story is bad. It's not. It's actually really good. It's just very straightforward. It's about a man wanting to avenge his father. Have we seen it before? Yeah. We've seen a lot of different movie plots, play out in different genres as well. Now, that's not the reason why, again, I didn't appreciate the story. I really did. There was some surprising moments, and it all flowed as you would expect. But now, that's kind of where I come into my kind of thing. And again, I think this is more of a nitpick, but and I'm sure we all kind of go through that, in that when we're watching a show or watching a movie, sometimes we start theorizing before something even happens or completes. Well, I ended up doing that as I was watching the movie, and I was actually sort of able to predict what was going to happen at the end. Now, that's not the movie's fault. I just felt that after I left the theater, I was not really blown away by the film. I thought it was really good, and I enjoyed my time watching it. I definitely, again, enjoyed all the different types of aspects, like, the visuals and the setting and all that. But I just, I wasn't really kind of taken back, like, whoa, like, just to give you an example, me going to see the Batman, or me going to see Everything Everywhere All at Once. After I left the theater watching those two movies, in my head, I'm already thinking, man, I can't wait to watch it again. And both movies were timeless to me. After this one, I didn't really get that feeling. And it wasn't that my expectations were like, oh yes, I need this to be a timeless movie. It actually wasn't. Again, I just didn't get that same feeling that I got watching other films earlier this year. Now, again, is that more of a me thing? Of course it is. Again, it's just a nitpick. It doesn't take away from what I thought about the movie, which is it's still a really great movie, and I highly recommend other people watch it, because I know that maybe on in your experience, you're definitely going to love it and might be timeless. Maybe for other people, it might not be that good as well. So let me know what your thoughts are, guys. Again, this really, I want to interact with you guys. So down below in the comments, let me know, what are your thoughts about The Northman? I want to hear it. Is The Northman a timeless movie? Did you expect the story to flow like that? Was it straightforward for you, or did it surprise you? Let me know what you think down below. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for coming back and listening to another episode. My name has been Victor Vasquez. This is episode number 23 of the Timeless Movie Podcast. Catch me next week on another episode where we start reviewing a different film. Not quite sure which one I'm going to review yet, so it'll hopefully be a surprise when it does drop. All right, everybody. Have a great rest of your week, and I hope to see you guys on the next episode. Thanks.